I wanted to point out the importance of recognizing that self-care is going to look different. Um, we are all unique individuals and we all have unique needs. And so everyone's self-care is not going to look the same. Like Remy and I said, like even our self-care doesn't look the same and we work together almost every day. So um, even running in the same communities and being with somebody all the time doesn't mean that your self-care is going to look the same, because as an individual, you have different needs and you take care of yourself a different way, and that's okay. What we're trying to get at today is that it's so important that at least you're doing something. As leaders, we tend to get so busy and fill our plates up, and it's so easy to be taking care of other people and forget to take care of ourselves. So what's really important to take away is that we are at least doing something for ourselves. It can be different than other people, but at least we're doing something.
Yeah, to play off and make a little bit, you can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself. So,
Exactly. Thank you, man. Awesome.
so this is our formal definition that we're going to use for today about what self-care is. We think it is what people do for themselves to establish and maintain health and to prevent and deal with illness. It is a broad concept encompassing hygiene, nutrition, lifestyle, environmental factors, socioeconomic status or factors, and self-medication. So I think that there are so many different things that play into self-care. So like we were kind of brainstorming some different ideas of what that looks like, it's really important to realize that there's a lot of different factors that that you need to really balance when you're looking at how you're going to perform it yourself.
Exactly. Thank you for that, Remy. So we're going to go ahead and get into the overall goals that we've kind of collected of what we feel is crucial and why self-care is so important. Um, and so we're going to go ahead and get started with time. So you have more than you think, but less than you need. Again, going back to overfilling our plate, making sure that we don't overcommit. We have time to take care of ourselves, do something that we enjoy. Um, do not try to book every last minute of your day. Be sure to give yourself ample time to get things done and take care of yourself.
Health. This is something that you cannot be productive if you can't function. Take time to reflect on your health and do not be afraid to get rest. Sleep, diet, and exercise are keys to healthy body and a healthy mind. So balancing like that in that definition, it says your sleep, your diet, your exercise, doing anything that you think will be beneficial for your overall health. Because I think this is really underlying and really all of your self-care. Because if you cannot function, you're not going to really be able to do a lot of other these self-care items that we have.
Not at all. Next is joy. When was the last time you laughed so hard you cried? For me, it was last night. We were playing a bunch of games. It was so fun. But you have to have it. There is no cure like laughter. Find humor in the world. This one's super important to me. Uh, I feel like happiness is a big part of who I am. It's something that I value, and it's also how I take care of myself. So finding joy, even in the little moments that might not be as joyful as you would like, but finding that little ounce of joy.
Our next is love. You may not realize it, but this is like such an important aspect of, I think, the human experience, and it's something that we all need. Surround yourself with people you love and who love you. Be sure to find time to talk with, hang out with whoever you feel most loved by. Don't be afraid to show a little love to yourself too. I think that love and that human connection is really what can make us happy and things that in ways that we can't even imagine. So making sure that we surround ourselves with the right people, I think, is my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, and going off of that, especially as leaders, it is so important to have a circle of people that you trust. I know as student leaders or even leaders in the real world, we all face certain experiences that we just need help with. And so having those people that love you and you love them to lean on in those times of need are critical to accomplishing anything. And then next is relaxation. You have to do it. As leaders, it can be so difficult, but you just need to press pause and come back with a clear mind to get what you need done.
Yes, I agree. Relaxation leads into our next one, though, is you. Who are you? I think this is such an important aspect of self care is to really be able to reflect on yourself and have really good, um, what would this be? Just idea of self, what you like, what you dislike, who you love, those types of things. What are your passions? Taking time to reflect really daily, weekly, monthly on yourself to discover who you are will allow you to really unlock some keys to self care that you may not have realized were there in the first place.
Great. Thank you, Remy. I think understanding yourself really goes into what we are about to do. So, folks, we are jumping into the wellness wheel. I love this activity. It's going to be super great. Um, we're going to first discuss what the wellness wheel kind of is, like the foundation of the activity that we're about to do. So, the wellness wheels has 6 components to self care: physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, personal, and professional. So we're just going to go through a few examples of what those look like in our everyday life, and then we'll go ahead and hop into the activity. So in the physical aspect, so we're looking at safe housing, regular medical care, eating healthy, exercise, getting enough sleep, taking vacations, psychological, self-reflection, therapy, journaling, self-awareness, emotional, affirmations, self love, self compassion, spiritual, reflection, go into nature, find a spiritual community, self cherish, meditate, personal, learn who you are, figure out what you want in life, plan short and long term goals, professional, taking time for lunch, setting boundaries, do not work overtime, leave work at work. So those are a few examples of what we're talking about when we're talking about the self-care wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and so we can all fill out an assessment. We made a packet that we were going to drop in the chat. However, the features of the webinar is not allowing us. So maybe take 30 seconds to a minute and go grab a pen, pencil, or piece of paper, or even if you have technology with you and you would prefer to use that, go ahead and get something like that out so we can all take this assessment together. Let me just stop sharing.
Yes, and while you all are grabbing that, we'll be doing the assessment kind of live in the moment. So if you aren't able to for some reason, you can at least get a good idea of what this assessment looks like and how you could do it in your everyday life as well. Maybe not even as formally. It could be journaling, things like that. So about another 30 seconds or so, and we'll just hop right in.
Awesome. Remy, can you see my screen?
Yep. So a couple of things to keep in mind while you're doing this activity, whether on your own or if you're doing it right now with us as well. Do it based on where you're typically at during the school year or the majority of your time. You want to make sure that this is where you're spending, or you're doing this with the frame of where you're at most of the time. Not something like particularly for like a week or a month where you might be on vacation or not in school, like winter break. This should be the majority of your time while you're in school. And then think about what wellness means to you, because you may value certain aspects of the wellness wheel that we do not, or others may not, in the same way. Thinking about those personal indicators in your life as well that may show you that you're not taking care of yourself as much as you should be. These indicators will let you know that something might be out of whack in your wheel. For me, is my room gets really, really messy when I'm super stressed out. So that's something that I will keep in mind while I'm doing this activity with you all today.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Remy. Remy, would you prefer if we read each out loud or if we just gave time?
We can give a little bit of time, and then maybe um, participants, if you want, you can kind of write down these blocks and then put down always, sometimes, or never. And Nick and I, we can kind of just talk through each one as we go along, just to kind of fill the time while people are doing it.
Awesome. Sounds good.
So for those, if you are able to just do this on a sheet of paper, that'd be great. We'll just start talking while you all are doing it. So starting off with physical health, eating nutritiously. This can often look like eating well-balanced meals, making sure that you're eating consistently. It may not have to be like 3 meals, whatever, a day, but making sure that you know roughly like how many calories you need. If you have also any like nutrition goals that you want to have in your life. So trying to implement that into your life on an everyday basis, or that's what it's asking.
Yes. Next, we're moving into exercising regularly. So this doesn't necessarily mean going to the gym and getting a good pump in. It just simply means, are you moving your body enough? Are you getting up and getting out? Maybe going on a walk, maybe going on a bike ride, maybe walking around the store for a couple hours. Who knows? Like Target, like I can do that a lot. Like I do be walking around Target for 3 or 4 hours. So exercising regularly.
Yes, I love Target too. The next question is asking, are you avoiding harmful behaviors and substances? This can look like avoiding certain, like avoiding alcohol and drugs, avoiding certain risky behaviors that could result in any harm to you or others. That's generally what it's asking in this question.
Next is watching for early signs of sickness. Are you feeling down and out? Things like fatigue is a big one for me. I know that I'm getting sick when I get really tired all the time. So watching out for things like this. Are we doing preventative things for being sick?
Next one is, do you protect yourself from accidents? Is this something that you're thinking about on a regular basis? Making sure that you're trying to stay physically safe in any given environment, and whether it's you're driving a car, riding a bike, walking down the street, making sure that or asking if you're aware of your surroundings to avoid accidents.
Awesome. So we're moving into psychological health. Are you generally aware of your feelings? Do you know when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're angry? Are you aware of when you're feeling things, or do we just kind of pass over that aspect?
The next one asks, are you able to accept your feelings? Is this something that you're able to do on a regular basis? Accepting your feelings can often look like coming to terms with how you react to certain situations. So if you are in a situation where something sad happens, are you coming to terms with the sadness that you feel or the happiness? Whatever it is, do you accept your feelings?
Moving into expressing emotions. So are you expressing your emotions appropriately? So if you get angry, are you going around and ripping off your shirt and punching holes in the walls? Are we taking appropriate actions to handle that emotion?
And the last one for psychological health is asking, can you cope with the challenges of daily stressors in your life? These daily stressors may be chores, work, schoolwork that might be like just building up as we're getting closer to exams, things like that. Are you able to cope with these in healthy ways too, though? So avoiding some of these other kind of things like avoiding harmful behavior, substances. Are you coping with stressors in your life appropriately?
Awesome. Moving into spiritual health. Do you feel you have a purpose in your life? Um, so do you feel like you're working towards an ultimate goal? Do you feel like you're making an impact on your community, on the world, on your friends, on your family? Do you feel like you have a reason for doing what you're doing?
Do you experience love, joy, peace, and fulfillment in your life? Making sure that, or it's asking if you have these opportunities to experience, I wouldn't call these emotions, but these aspects of life on a regular basis.
Can you help yourself and others achieve your full potential? Are you in a place in your life that you have the resources and you're utilizing them to help yourself achieve goals, different opportunities? Are you able to help your friends with the same things?
And then lastly, do you participate in any spiritual practices such as prayers, meditation, or practice within a religious faith? These, I think that especially within these spiritual practices, are pretty important as they help you really reflect on yourself and the world around you, and are paramount to understanding others and yourself better.
Awesome. Moving on to social health. Do you interact effectively with other people in your social environment? Are you able to interact with people? Are you able to communicate with people? What does that look like? Is it beneficial? Is it positive? Or are we moving more into we don't want to talk to people, we're kind of excluding ourselves from the conversation, even though it might be something that we're interested in?
Yeah. Can you develop satisfying interpersonal relationships? Are you able to really reach out to others and connect with people on a healthy basis and really build strong, lasting relationships?
Do you fulfill your social roles as a member of family, group, or group of friends, or part of a team or club? Going off of what Remy said, building those long-lasting relationships, are you able to do that and interact with other people in a positive way?
Then, do you contribute to your community by volunteering? Once again, it gets back to relationships, but also giving back to your community allows you to really build a sense of purpose and place. And what I mean by that is you really feel welcomed into your community and connected to it.
And lastly, do you practice healthy sexual behaviors?
Going into now intellectual health, the first question asks, are you able to use your mind to gather, process, and act on information? Are you able to analyze situations in your life or even problems and be able to come together to understand what's actually happening?
Do you think through your values to make decisions? So are you making decisions that align with your core values as an individual?
Next, you set goals for yourself. These goals can be based around kind of this wellness wheel that we talked about, or even more specific goals around academics or whatever is going on in your life. But the point is, do you set goals for yourself on a regular basis?
Are you able to figure out how to handle a problem or a challenge? So are you able to work through adversity that you find in your life, or do you kind of just get stumped at a problem and you don't really know where to go from there?
Are you open to new ideas and new perspectives, I would even add, because I think that this shows your flexibility, but also your willingness to see from a new side of things.
Do you question and evaluate information and use critical thinking? So this is saying, do you believe everything that is told to you or given to you, or do you really evaluate, is what this information I'm getting true? Is this accurate? Does this align with my values?
Going into environmental health, some of these are going to be a little bit further out of your control, but it's still good to think about when we're thinking of our self-care and our wellness. So, do you live in a community where there is clean air, water, and soil? This can mean, is there little pollution in the air? Is there safe water to drink? Is it safe to go outside? Things like that.
Do you use dangerous products safely?
And do you protect yourself from pollutants such as pesticides or secondhand smoke, trying to avoid, similar to what was up above in physical aspects, making sure that you are just keeping yourself safe?
Do you participate in recycling to protect and preserve the resources of the planet? I think that one's pretty self-explanatory.
That one's easy. So then the second half of this activity is going to be a little bit more personal. You'll be able to debrief what you have as your results, essentially. So trying to look at some of the places that you maybe said never compared to always and how you value them. For me specifically, right at the moment, I don't think I'm exercising as much as I want, just because I think I'm getting a little bogged down, a little booking my time a little bit too much. So I may think that right now with my personal wellness, I might be feeling a little stressed with exams coming up and could maybe try to refocus my wellness ideas and self-care.
Awesome. Yeah. So as we're taking time to fill out, reflect on these behaviors. Did any of your results from the assessment surprise you? And any of the areas that you scored lower in, did you know that you were going to score lower in these areas, or is this new information and we're just now realizing it as we're taking the assessment? So go ahead and take a few moments and just fill out these reflection questions.
And for those of you that are comfortable and willing, feel free to put any maybe surprises or reflection ideas into the chat. If you're comfortable with us sharing them out, we won't use names or anything, just to be able to get an idea of what you all are thinking.
We would love to hear from you guys.
And so while y'all are doing that, Nick, is there any areas, just kind of jumping down to the bottom, are there any areas that you feel you could improve in?
That I could improve in. Let's see here. I feel as though I don't want to scroll up on 1 second, please.
You're all good. I can go right before you do. Like I said, exercise. Another example, I think, for me is we talked about this a little bit in the last session. If anyone was in mine previously, talking a little bit about conflict management and expressing emotion. I think that when I get stressed or when I'm feeling or when I'm not taking care of myself, I often actually kind of avoid conflict and like expressing my emotion just because I think it's easier. And it's bad because it's more convenient in a way to me in some ways to avoid conflict. So thinking of my self-care and things that are surprising me is I should probably like when I could improve in expressing my emotion.
Thank you for sharing, Remy. I think for me personally, like you said about time management and getting stressed, my room also gets very messy when I get stressed. I think I have an issue taking care of myself when I feel like my plate is full. I have a tendency to try to accomplish self-care, and then in the middle of my self-care, I naturally just stop and go to something else, and it's not even on purpose, but it's just the way my mind thinks, and I want to get my other obligations done. And so I've been recently starting to journal and do better at that, but I definitely am nowhere near perfect on journaling and staying focused on my own self-care. So I've been working towards doing that.
Thank you for sharing, Nick. We had a couple things come in from the chat. Thinking about people would think that they're doing well at setting goals and accepting feelings, but maybe work on exercising regularly, being open to new ideas. So we really appreciate that from the chat. But I think from the interest of time, we might have to start bouncing to our next topic.
Yes.
Time is flying by on this.
It is. 1 second, please.
No, you're all good. While you're pulling that up, I can talk a little bit more about some things in the chat.
Sure.
Trying to work on ideas with like social health. Some people are saying that they're doing well with building relationships and understanding, but maybe improving with the psychological help and health and expressing of feelings. I think that during these times too, where COVID-19 kind of restricts the amount of time we have face to face with people, it can be difficult to really, I think, like express ourselves through Zoom or through FaceTime, whatever we're using. So trying to figure out ways to really express ourselves like in modern COVID times is pretty important, I think, when we're talking about self-care.
Yes, and awesome. So I have our next activity coming up. So we are going to go ahead and jump into time management. I want us to hang on to the activity that we just did, so don't let it go very far because we're going to utilize it in just a second. So we're going to build off of what we just did and the reflection questions that you just filled out. Do you ever feel like as a leader, there's just not enough time in your day to get what you need done, because I do sometimes. There's just not enough time in my day to get everything I need done. And that's when I feel like as leaders, we sacrifice the first thing that we feel that we can. And usually that's us as individuals, is we tend to put others before ourselves. And so that's where we cut out is self-care, our sleep, our eating, because we feel that our obligations are a higher priority. And so what we're going to jump into is called 168 hours a week. And it is a document that will help us calculate where we're spending most of our time. So we're going to be able to see what activities that we're doing, how much time we're spending on them. And then from there, we'll calculate how many hours we're doing that per week, and if there's actually enough hours in our week to accomplish these things. So what's going to happen is you're going to go through each of the lines that we have here. So where it says sleeping, for example, you'll put how many hours you're sleeping in a day. So hopefully it's 7, 8, 9-ish. And then you'll do the calculation via calculator, or if you would like some assistance with this, go ahead and put in the chat to Remy and I, and we'll be more than happy to help you guys out with the calculations. So from there, you would take 8 times 7 and get the number. After filling out the document, you're going to total the numbers and see how many hours you're spending on activities. And then you'll take 168 hours you have in your week, minus the total number of hours you spent on the activities, and you'll get the total number of hours left in your week. If this is a negative number, we might need to look at what we're doing and reprioritize some of these obligations that we have. So go ahead and take a couple minutes to fill this out and drop in the chat maybe how many hours you have left in your week.
Yeah, and this, we don't have a ton of time today, so if we can do it quickly, because I think it's really important. This will be a huge part of the last section of what we want to do today. For those of you that are able, you could also take a screenshot of this and then save it for yourself in the future as well. Just because personally, I think that this is really a good framework to show how much time you're actually spending on yourself and how much time you're spending on things that maybe should be limited, maybe things that you need to put more time to. So what we can do real quick, Mick and I, if you and I could do this real quick, Mick, and get our numbers, and maybe talk through it while we're doing it, so that the folks have an example of what is going on for someone if you were to do this activity all the way through.
Cool.
All right, Mick, how many hours do you sleep a night?
7.
I think I'm right about at 7 too.
7, okay. Showers, hair, etc.
We might be different on this one.
Yeah, I think
I'm at maybe, let's say 30 minutes a day, probably.
Yeah. I'm going with an hour.
An hour? Okay.
Eating.
So I think lately I've been really, with eating personally, I've been eating out a little bit more than I should be. So I've been spending less time on cleaning, cooking. So I'm going to kind of put this down a little bit to maybe 40, maybe an hour a day.
I think I'm going to do the same, but what I have been doing, which has been really beneficial for me, is I've been multitasking with my eating. So if I need to get my laundry done or something like that, I'll go pop my laundry in and then I'll eat my meal and then change my laundry. So it's kind of like getting 2 things done at once, right?
Yeah, that's fantastic. I had very little time to BGSU. I'm not going to put anything for that.
Yeah, same.
Same with work. So activities and involvements, should that include work?
I would say yes.
Okay. I'm at 25 a week. Maybe 30, actually.
I would say, oh goodness gracious, let me count.
I just gave a ballpark too, something around there.
I would
Uh,
say like 20 for me.
okay. Exercise and sports right now, like I said, I kind of want to get a little bit more done as far as like exercise. So I'm only probably at like 2 hours a week of like anything.
I would say I'm pretty up there with cheer. Uh, 2 hours. With working out. Also not 2 hours. I would say I'm at like 10 for that.
Okay.
Leisure time.
Probably like 8 hours a week.
Yeah, I would agree with that one.
Oh boy. Okay.
And
So we are, I think we have about 10 minutes left.
yeah, we got it.
Yeah. Okay. So I just quickly added mine up, and I think I'm just about at like 150. Maybe I could have 155. I'm sorry. I just did ballpark. It's like 150 hours a week spent. So I have about 13 hours left of my week. That's kind of unappropriated. That's probably getting used more so by like leisure time, I bet, because I feel like I'm always doing something. Um, but so about 13 hours left in the week.
I would say I'm right about around there looking at my hours. Yeah, I would agree with you. Mine are pretty close to yours. I think I have a few more hours. I tend to spend that with the team though. We enjoy doing some team bonding throughout the week. So
Very cool. For those of you that are participating, and if you were able to do this along with us, if you want to put in about how much time left you have in the chat each week, that would be great. If just because of the time, I know we're moving quickly, we weren't able to get quite done with this or quite finished with this. That's totally fine. Feel free though, take a screenshot because this is, like I said, good framework to be able to tell where your time is going and where maybe your time should be going toward that might be lacking.
yeah, and so when we finish completing this activity, something that I personally have read and used and utilized is after we do this and we figure out where we're spending our time and we come to the conclusion that we have enough hours in our week to do what we need to get done, go ahead and write that out. Write your days out by the hour, by the minute, by the second to see where you're spending your time, how you need to spend your time efficiently, and write it down in more than one spot because I can guarantee you that you do not carry around your planner in your hand all day long. So I like to write mine out in my planner and then I put it in my phone too. So that way I have multiple references of how I need to spend my time.
And in the chat, it's looking like we had some people that were overtime, that were over the 168. Some people saying that they had multitasking going on. So those hours may be a little bit lower, really. But so if you're negative in time, we're really going to need to figure out ways to, I mean, if we're all, I'm going to assume, some type of leader on campus. All of us are leaders. We're going to need to figure out ways to probably try to change these activities and limit the things that we may need to put less attention to be able to have more time for self-care or the other activities that are really important to you or that are essential to like the wellness wheel. So thank you all for sharing there.
We appreciate it. Awesome. So what we're going to do is in completing the two activities, the wellness wheel assessment and the time management page that we kind of just went over, we're now going to do that action plan that we talked about at the beginning of the session. So we're going to kind of take what we know about where we were improving on with our self-care and kind of how much time we have to do that. And we're going to create a plan to move forward. So I want everyone to go ahead and answer these questions that we have on our wellness plan relating to one area of the assessment that we took in regards to the wellness wheel.
And as the previous two ones, feel free to drop it in the chat as well if you are comfortable with sharing like one area of improvement.
Remy, how are you going to improve?
So I'm looking at my time, and I feel like I actually underestimated the leisure time. And that's
Mhm.
probably a lot higher with like social media and YouTube. So I think that if I were to limit the time I spend on social media, YouTube, those types of things, I could probably try to fit in more time for like just more regular exercise. So I think that's how I'm going to try to improve.
Awesome.
What about you?
I think for me, I have found that I do better. Sorry, there's like blind marks on my face and I can't get rid of them.
You're all,
So
don't worry.
here we are, technology for you. Um, I think for me, I do better when I have like an accountability partner. And so I think I might reach out to some of my friends and maybe talk about doing like a self-care night and doing it together, just so that way I can hold myself accountable. And I know that when I'm with my friends, like it's going to get done because we're doing it together.
That's awesome. Great tip to also tell some of our participants here is find someone that can hold you accountable when it comes to self-care. I think it's easy to fall into some bad habits or bad practices, and someone there that can tell you like, hey, we need to be doing this. That's great.
Completely agree. Do we have anything in the chat, Remy?
Let's see if anyone wants to share in the chat. That would be great. While you all are thinking about that, and if you want to share, perfect. Just moving on to like the next section of our wellness plan. Uh, 3 practices that you can do to improve your wellness in this area. So think back to the wellness wheel, whether it's physical, psychological. I need the wheel back. I don't know the rest off the top of my head. Emotional, spiritual, personal, or professional. What's a couple of things that you could do to improve that particular one you think is lacking? And then in the chat, some folks talking just about maybe improving spiritual wellness, just due to an excess of time, not really knowing how to do it maybe. And that's totally fine too. Just trying to figure out ways to improve spiritual wellness. For me, I think, especially on a college campus, I think that spiritual wellness might be one of the most like underrated or overlooked parts of the wellness wheel. I think that we could spend more time improving upon that. Thank you for sharing in the chat.
Awesome. I'm going to stop sharing and reshare. So, some resources, if you struggled maybe putting together this plan, we have come up with some resources that you can go to on campus or slightly off campus that can help you figure this plan out. So the first one is the Counseling Center, and then the Career Center, Falcon Health Center, and then that Friends and Family Network that we were talking about earlier.
Yes, thank you for sharing those resources. Those are all great. And I think, oh, perfect. So some of the things going on in the Marvin Center that we would love for you to take advantage of are our Bowling Green Leadership Achievement Award. It's a self-paced leadership certificate or achievement award that's pretty comparable to Boy Scouts, how they get their Eagle Scout, or Girl Scouts, I think it's their Gold Star. I think it's Gold Star. Really cool opportunity to be able to showcase at the end of your 4 years or however long left you have at Bowling Green to say, like, here's how I practice leadership in my time at BG. Our virtual ethical leadership certificate, you can sign up on our website anytime. One of the biggest things, too, that I want to highlight with our time left is that we are searching for our next SLAs, the position that Mick and I are in for the academic year 2021 to 2022. If you would like to apply. The application is open until January 15th, 2021. It's a great opportunity to focus on facilitation and getting more connected to leadership curriculum. I'm going to put the link for the application in the chat if you would like to apply. If you have any questions too, you can email us at leadership@bgsu.edu for any questions as well.
Yes. And go ahead and follow us at BGSU_leadership on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We would love to have you guys interact with our posts and stay tuned for updates on what we're doing in the Marvin Center.
Yep. Thank you so much for spending your last session of the conference with us. I think we are just about to be out of time. So we really appreciate you all coming out.
Thank you so much.
Great work, you two. I'm going to stop recording.